Okay, welcome to this Ask Me Anything session for the MST in Creative Writing, and more specifically, the poetry pathway of the MST in Creative Writing. This session is an informal opportunity for you to ask your questions about the course, specifically the poetry pathway. This AMA builds upon a Ask Me Anything session that we've run for the MST as a whole. You might well have attended that session, but if you haven't, that session has been recorded and can be found linked from the PACE website or on the PACE YouTube channel. This session will also be recorded and will be shared on our website and our social media channels. We're going to be opening the Q&A function during this talk, and there's instructions in the chat as to how to submit questions to that Q&A. We can ask anything live, any questions that pop into your mind as we're talking. I myself am Joe Reed. I'm the co-director of the MST in Creative Writing. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Dr. Alicia Per-Mohamed, who is a poetry specialist on the MST in Creative Writing, and Dr. Lucy Deneen, who is also a poetry specialist along with other genres on the MST in Creative Writing. So thank you for joining us, Lucy and Alicia. I'm going to launch into the questions that we've received already in advance of this session. So to begin with, I'd like to pass this question over to Lucy and Alicia in turn. Can you describe in detail some genre-specific modules that you will offer in poetry? I should begin by framing this and saying that the poetry pathway will be defined by students taking 6 genre modules. Of the 6 genre modules they choose in the course, 4 of them must be poetry and 2 of them can be poetry modules, or they could be modules from another genre. So to jump over to Lucy now. Lucy, could you tell us which genre-specific modules you foresee teaching on the poetry pathway?
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe. So particularly, I can speak, I suppose, most specifically to the ones that I'm able to offer. But the poetry that I'm particularly interested in is poetry that's very much responding to the contemporary world, the challenges that we're facing. I'm interested in a module that I'm sort of tentatively thinking of as teaching love poetry in a burning world, which you may recognize that title from Katie Farris's poem of that name. Why we would or why and how we can respond to current global events through our poetry. So that's something particularly that might take many different forms within the poems themselves, prose poetry, lyric poetry, more sort of activist work. So it's quite a sort of broad-reaching area, but my interest is working sort of to a theme. So that's particularly where I'm interested in offering pathways modules. Sorry, I want to pass over to Alicia for her particular specialisms.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thanks, Lucy, and thanks, Joe. I think at this moment, in the poetry pathway, we're also thinking about like kind of the foundational sort of skills and thinking about craft that we want to introduce to our students. So for the modules that I have been kind of thinking about for the pathway, that includes things that are more broadly about craft, so like the poetic line and image, figurative language, and then also form and structure. So kind of a more broad look at the sort of foundational aspects of poetry, to then go further and deeper into different themes and subject matter. In terms of my kind of academic interests and specializations, I'm really interested in eco-poetry and nature poetry. So it's likely that in either those modules that I've just mentioned, or an entirely new module, we'd also be looking at sort of an environmental look at poetry, but also tying that with an activist approach and looking at beyond the Western traditions of eco-poetry as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And I should say that depending on enrolment, we might also have poetry tuition from our excellent colleague Joanne Lindberg, who's published a number of books of poetry, and we'll have another book of poetry coming out in 2027 with Blood Axe. And we're also hoping to recruit an extra staff member with expertise in poetry. So we're hoping that these options will grow going forward into the year. So these are our provisional kind of suggestions of what's going to be on offer, but we're very excited about being able to offer more to you. In light of your last answer, Alicia, can I pass this one to you? Will there be any tuition on the formal mathematics of verse, for example, meters such as iambic pentameters?
Yeah, I think one thing that for all the modules and all the pathways, we want to make sure we're providing our students with kind of a comprehensive kind of understanding of the genre that they are working in. And form and particularly meter is a part of that. So it's absolutely like encountering that in terms of thinking about form and structure and both traditional and contemporary poetry is quite important. Whether or not there is a module focused on meter, I think that's not yet, like that's not something we could answer at this moment, but definitely form and structure is important to, and meter in that way is important to include in that sort of comprehensive knowledge that we want to pass on to students.
Yeah, and it seems like you've done a lot to think about providing a foundational approach where you kind of address these fundamentals for the students, so students will come out with a pretty strong grasp of these kind of technical aspects of their poetry. Sounds like. So, Lucy, could I pass you this question? The question is the deadline for all the assignments at the end of the year? So I guess thinking about the module courses, the deadline will come at the end of the year. Can you talk about answer that and talk about how we'll manage that in terms of formative assessment?
So the deadlines, I think, are spread through they're connected to the modules. So there'll be a kind of pacing of those throughout the year. Joe, I wonder if you're a bit more familiar than I am
Yeah,
with
sorry,
the framework of
I
the
missed it. I
assessment.
missed the
So
spreadsheet. I'll
yeah,
jump in with the
yes,
spreadsheet answer.
absolutely.
So our actual deadlines, our deadlines will actually all fall at the end of the year, and they will be the wording for them for each of the assignments is 1,500 words of prose or textual equivalent. So that means that for poetry, you're probably going to be submitting a little less work. Maybe you'll be submitting something like 500 words of poetry for each module of poetry that you're enrolled on, and those will come at the end of the year. But what Lucy's referring to is that we're going to plan on each instructor in managing their module. They're going to plan on having formative exercises that will see you kind of getting feedback on your work as you're going through the year. And the nature of that formative feedback is going to depend on the class. Maybe some classes will include workshopping elements whereby the instructor is allowing peers to share poems and share feedback. Sometimes it will be the tutor offering feedback in class. But we hope that by the end of the year, you have a particular piece of creative work that has been inspired by the module you've been enrolled in. And you'll submit that and you'll receive feedback on that and inline feedback on that. And that will be internally moderated and then externally moderated at the end of the year. So one other question we've received is I understand that apart from the compulsory choice of 4 modules in poetry, I can choose 2 modules in a different genre. As I'm also interested in creative nonfiction, can you describe summarily even the genre-specific modules for the creative nonfiction? Yes, definitely. That's a very good understanding of the course. So you will have your 4 core modules over the 2 years in poetry, but you will have these 2 choices that you can take in another genre if you wish. So currently the CNF modules that we propose to run in the first year, these are obviously proposals at this stage, but we hope to run these are writing from experience, essays, creative nonfiction essays. My colleagues point out this will have a more glamorous title when it's actually run. Writing across genres, and research for creative nonfiction. So those are some classes that should give you a real grounding in creative nonfiction, and they encompass a lot of different forms. So you could write memoir in these classes, you could write the lyric essay in these classes, you could write creatively on a particular subject in these sessions. So there's a lot of range there. The question also asks, can you offer any classes in fiction even? And fiction's broader. We're going to have a number of fiction classes. We're going to offer classes that will take in short stories. We're definitely going to have a number of classes taking in novels, short novels, work in translation is going to be the subject of at least one module. I think we're likely to do something on the fractured novel, or the novels that break genre boundaries. I'm trying to think of other things. I'm teaching some of these classes, and yes, structuring novels is going to be something else that we plan on teaching. So yeah, there's going to be a really broad range of fictional options as well, and I'm very excited about those. I would also point you towards the screenwriting option. So there'll be at least 2 screenwriting classes, or modules, I should say, 2 screenwriting modules, and those will take in writing for film and writing for TV, and they will offer an opportunity to participate in a writing room with other students to kind of get experience of what it's like to write collaboratively for the screen. So very exciting opportunity to both work in poetry, but also to experiment outside of a genre and get a taste of the other areas of work. We're very into multi-genre experimentation on our course.
And could I, if I add to that with the nonfiction, things like the option in like the lyric essay, and also there'll be an element of hybrid nonfiction writing, or sort of interdisciplinary nonfiction writing, that will align very closely with poetry, or there'll be a kind of a slippage between those genres as well. So there's a lot of resonance between those nonfiction modules and the poetry ones particularly.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, so now this is a technical question, so I'm going to pass it to my colleague Roberto, who's going to talk to us about funding. The question is there funding available for international students? So Roberto is going to talk about options for international students in terms of paying for the course.
So yes, if you're an international student, we as PACE do not offer any specific bursary or scholarship, but you may be able to find some funding from the colleges. But this is a responsibility of applicants and students to get in touch with colleges to inquire if there is any funding available. The colleges that we work with are Lucy Cavendish, Downing, Wolfson, Selwyn, St. Edmunds, and Robinson's. If you are a student in the US, you might be able to get a loan from Sally Mae. I will be sharing the link to Sally Mae in the chat later on. There is also, in special circumstances, we might be able to discuss a tailored payment plan. So perhaps if you wish to pay smaller installments every month, we could perhaps agree that. And yeah, these are the main opportunity for funding. There is also an alternative guide to postgraduate funding, and I will share the link for that in the chat as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Roberto. So another question asks, during the time period between the residential, is it possible to have access to one-to-one tutorials? And as kind of the structured person on this call, I can very much answer that. Yes, it is. It's not just possible, but that's part of the structure. So between the residentials, you will meet one-on-one online with your tutor, and that's a point at which you can discuss your academic progress with your tutor. And it's also a chance to talk about the critical writing module, which you'll complete over the first year. In the second year, you will meet one-on-one, not with your tutor, but with your supervisor. And you will meet with them 5 times over the course of the year. Those meetings will happen outside of the residential weeks. And those meetings will be either online or in person, depending on where both of you are in the world. So that will be a kind of mutual organization between both of you. And you'll be grouped you'll be placed with a supervisor who's expert in the area of writing that you are working in. Another aspect of the first year that I think we should highlight is the workshopping. So you will be workshopping in the genre that you've entered the course in. So, for example, if entering for poetry, you'll be workshopping in poetry. And I'd like to bring in Alicia at this point as someone who'll be running one of the poetry workshops. Could you tell us, Alicia, how you foresee the workshop running? There will be up to 8 students in the workshop, and what can they expect from those sessions?
So the workshops will happen at each residency, and all the work is given to all the workshop participants in advance. So there is an expectation that the work will be read in advance, and feedback from peers as well as the facilitator of the workshop will be provided during the workshop spaces. And these are explorative spaces. They're places to discuss with each other and provide critical, incisive feedback on the work. Because you'll be working with workshop groups across the year, you'll have a really great chance to build a community with your workshop group. And hopefully, these are readers that are there to read your work. Probably the most focused attention you might receive on your work ever. So yeah, there's an expectation that people come prepared, they come engaged and ready to speak about each other's work in, of course, like a very respectful, critically engaged manner. Yeah, so they happen across the year, and your workshop group is your community. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And just one final question that we have at the moment, in case anything comes up on the Q&A. Remember, the Q&A is open if you'd like to offer a question for us to answer now. But one final question is to Lucy, and it concerns the form of the thesis. So, what kind of theses could students pursue on a poetry pathway? What could we help them with writing their dissertation in terms of poetry?
I think the key thing is that we're very interested in helping you amplify your voice, the voice that you are really trying to explore. We're trying to find the best way for you to articulate your ideas. So we're very open to different poetic forms, hybrid forms, different all sorts of different projects across a complete range of themes and subjects. And what we don't want to do is sort of try and shuffle you down any particular kind of pathway. We want to understand what it is that you are aiming to achieve as a writer, how you want to develop your voice, and we want to really be able to support and nurture you in that. So I think in terms of thesis subjects and the kinds of projects that might emerge, in a way, the kind of the scope of that is as broad as your imagination and what you would like to be able to explore creatively, and to sort of push yourself also as a poet. I think sometimes it can be very interesting to come to a thesis with an idea that might feel like something you do need that little bit of support with. So it's not something that you feel immediately equipped to deal with alone, that you've got that sort of guidance from your tutors to sort of really help you hone and sort of polish it. So I think, I mean, we've seen all kinds of different poetry projects. We've seen in the past things that have, as I say, been sort of more hybrid oriented prose poetry. We've seen sequences. We've seen really ambitious and bold and dynamic work. And I would anticipate being able to support all manner of different areas. I don't know if Alicia wants to add anything to sort of particular kinds of things we're interested in, but really, it's, as I say, it's our ethos is very much about developing your voice as a poet and helping that emerge.
Learner-led, yes. Alicia, is there anything else that you'd like to add to kind of the thoughts about the dissertation?
I think Lucy did a really great job of getting across how much the dissertation belongs to the student, and how much it's there for them to explore what they want to explore, whether they know that immediately or whether that transforms throughout the year, with the support of not only your supervisor, but hopefully that workshop group that you had in your first year, and also your peers within the larger network of the course. So there is a lot of scaffolding and support along with you discovering your voice, like Lucy mentioned.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alicia. One other thing I'd just like to throw into the mix to consider for what we're offering in poetry is that in second year, we're also going to be offering a professional practices strand. And this will be a series of talks, but also a series of sessions in which students will organize their own group projects. And the leeway for doing stuff in poetry is really huge. So we'd love to see students, say, organizing their own journal. This might be a chance to solicit work from other poets. We're considering the idea of organizing a pamphlet press in which perhaps you could be publishing the work, working to publish the work of other poets. Organizing poetry readings, for example, would be another great thing to do, or to be teaching classes where you're teaching poets to groups outside of the university. So there's a lot of chance to get your hands in real proper real world projects and get your practice of poetry out into the world. So we're very excited about that development on the course. That all leaves me. I'm just going to check the Q&A one more time. That leaves me to say thank you so much for attending the session this evening. I'll just remind you the session has been recorded and it will be circulated later this week. We will email it to you. We'll give you a little link to watch the session if you want to watch back anything we've said. Remember that the deadline is the 15th of January, cantering closer every day, closer than you think. Any further questions, please get in contact with our enrolment team at enquiries@pace.cam.ac.uk. Enquiries@pace.cam.ac.uk. Please also refer to our website for extra information about the course and that all-important application link. There will also be links to the course trailer and bite-sized lecture videos, which are hosted on the PACE YouTube site. So should you want to learn more about the course from watching other AMAs, the course video or the course summary, then that's a great way to learn more. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you about this very exciting new development in our course.